Okay, I'm Jennifer Marden. I am a speech pathologist, and I've been working in the AAC area for about, 20 years or so. Before that, I was a computer programmer. And my introduction to Angelman was, as with many people's in the therapy field, Aaron Sheldon asking me to do something, which turned out to be a life-changing experience. So I was at the camp that Aaron Sheldon ran 3 years ago, something like that, in Toronto. What the Angelman Syndrome Foundation asked me to present about was core word AAC systems kind of in general. I work for Assistiveware. Oh, first of all, I wanted to say this link, this is where the handouts live. You do not have to write down everything. We're being videotaped. And you can get the handouts there, and I'll make sure I show that slide at the end of the session too. So my first disclaimer is I work for Assistiveware. I have deliberately not worn my Assistiveware outfit today to try and symbolize that this is me as a speech pathologist speaking, not as a representative of Assistiveware. But Assistiveware makes Proloquo Go, which is a core word AAC system, and I'm the designer of the vocabulary in Proloquo Go. So I do have my biases. I'm going to try and keep them as low as possible because I'm going to be, for the main, talking about Proloquo Go, but I'm also going to be talking about 3 other core word systems, one of which I know is used in the Angelman community, and the other 2 were, I believe they are used in their exhibitors that were exhibiting here in the hall. So I want people to be able to have the information about the systems before they make a choice. If you were in the plenary session, you may have heard Sarah Rivard talk about the real difficulty of deciding which system to use. And what I want this session to be is, in part, a way for you to get an overview of what to look for in a core word system. There are different philosophies for core word systems. First of all, what the heck are they? And second of all, what are those philosophies? The systems I'll be showing you today are ones that as a clinician, I would be very happy to use with anyone. They're really, really good systems. And what it comes down to is, what is it that your family is comfortable with, your son or daughter is comfortable with, what your school team is comfortable with and or can be talked into using, because the most important marker for success is that everyone uses the system and models it. So it doesn't matter if it's the best system in the world if the team is not comfortable with it. And there are options out there. Let's see. So I will give links for more information for all of the systems as I finish talking about them, so that I really encourage you to contact the makers of systems after this talk to clarify things I might have gotten wrong or to get their point of view as well. So again, just take my talking about competitors with a grain of salt, but I really feel like people should be able to know what else is out there. Okay, that's my disclaimer. How does it turn? Okay, so I've been talking about core words, but not talking about what the heck they are. Core words are basically defined as what are the words we use the most in conversation, in writing, and as it turns out, if you look at information about how frequently we use words, 50 words account for almost half of what we say. 100 words count for over half. 200 to 400 words, if you just have access to those words, you can cover 80% of what you say every day. And so what I like to think of core words as like Lego blocks. I can give you a house, or I can give you a bunch of Lego blocks, and you can express your personality and you can say exactly what you want to say by putting together what it is that you have in mind. It may take longer than pressing one button that says a whole sentence, but then it's really what you wanted to say, and it really gives you the freedom to express yourself. We've looked at, we've localized Proloquo Go in Spanish and French, and now we're working on Dutch. And we've found that there's a remarkable consistency across languages. Obviously, it's not the same words, it's not even the same concepts, but usually these numbers of core words, of how many words you can have to cover most of what you say, holds true across languages. This is just a quick example of a set of core words. This happens to be Proloquo Go, the 7x11 configuration. But they're, and what almost all, well, what all core words have is, core word systems have is a home page that's got a lot of those useful words available to you right up front. So why would you use core words? I actually cover this a little bit. You can have what's called spontaneous novel utterance generation, or SNUG, if you like algorithms, if you like abbreviations. And obviously the most, after speech, it's much more useful to have literacy than to have core words, because then you have 26 symbols, you can say anything, but literacy can be a long haul for a lot of people. So core words is what you can have starting out to give you that freedom. So what kind of words are core words? Well, they turn out to not be nouns. They're verbs, pronouns, adjectives, prepositions, articles, conjunctions, all of those words that are fairly abstract, kind of hard to represent in a picture, but really they are the skeleton of our language system. So there are no nouns in the first 50 words, 18 nouns in the first 200, and in the first 400 core words, there are 82 nouns. So you have to go up to, so if you go all the way up to 400, about a little less than a quarter of the words are nouns. And what nouns are important are very individual too. So what can you say with core words? This is probably hard to read, but you'll be able to see it in the slide. But one of the points that this slide is trying to make, let me see if the next one makes it a little clearer. No. So we'll go back. We're going back. Hello. So there are many different ways to classify the reasons that we talk. Most of the time when you're starting out with AAC, you start looking at the reason that we talk to get our basic needs met. And I said I wasn't a walker, but I am going to walk. That's right here, this tiny part, expressing your needs and wants. So that's asking for things, that's refusing things. It's a very small part of the reasons that we talk. We can get and give information, so we can ask questions, we can tell stories, we can talk about what's going to happen next or what happened yesterday. We can plan, we can explain, we can discuss. We also have social interaction, which is very, very key. Not only saying please and thank you, but teasing people, joking, flirting, giving compliments. These are all things that make you an interesting person to talk to. And we want our folks to be interesting people to talk to make friends. And then AAC repair strategies, which is not something you or I have to do because we would just talk. But it's important to have a way to say, could you let me say that another way? I don't have this on my system. Can you add this for me? I've got hints. I'm going to give you some hints as to what I might be saying so you can add the word for me. So what of these things, what of these purposes of talking, these reasons of speaking, can we say without nouns? Here are a few examples. I don't want to take up time reading them. You'll see them in the slides. But certainly for requesting, you don't always have to say, I want. You can say, you go. You can say, put it in there. That's a request. You can say, do it again. And that you can usually say off of the main page of a core word system. You can refuse not only by saying no, but make it stop, you get out, or even I like it different. You can comment by saying that not good or that good, you have more than me, that's a comment, look here. You can ask a question. What in there? When this stop? When is this going to stop? That's what I've been thinking about the heat. Where go that? And for social interaction, you look great. Goes a long way with a lot of people. And for communication repair, as I said, help find it, help me find it. What did you say? I don't know. This is something that you will, you can find at the link that's at the bottom of the page. Again, when you get the slides, you'll be able to find that. It's hard to read at this size, but this is a school in Michigan that had a 32 core word board that they used in all their classes, and one teachers meeting they just brainstormed in all of these different reasons for talking. What can we model just with this board with no nouns at all? And they came up with 2 pages worth of things that they could say. So it's really interesting to look at it, that there's really a lot of power in that one main page in a core word system. But it's not always about the core words. You have to have the fringe words. Sometimes when we talk about core words, people go kind of off the deep end and don't allow you to have a noun at all. Nouns are very, very important. They're highly motivating, they're highly personal, and they're a really key thing to get right when you're customizing someone's system. So basically fringe words are all the other words. They're nouns, but they're also highly specific verbs and adjectives. And some fringe is personal core. So if you are obsessed with Harry Potter, you better have Harry Potter on your system. It's not a core word, but for you, it is. I wouldn't put it on the home page, but I'd have it pretty darn close. Fringe words are just as important. I said that. They're individually less powerful. If I say Harry Potter, you know I'm establishing a topic, but am I asking for it? Am I commenting about it? Am I saying last night I went to see Harry Potter? You need some context, and that's where the core words come in. And so fringe words are useful in particular situations. Core words are always useful in every situation. This is an example of a fringe folder in Prolocota Go. This is the main food folder. Systems tend to have very different structures for their fringe folders. In Prolocota Go, we've taken the core is useful everywhere dictum and made sure that all of the fringe folders have core words that you can use when you're talking about the fringe. And we've made sure that the core words stay in the same position as they are on the home page, so that you have some kind of consistency when you're looking for something. You can either remember a motor pattern that I is always up and to the left, or the verbs are kind of in the middle, and you can find things. So what is a core word AAC system? We know what core words are, and I've got a list here of kind of the constituents of a core word system. I'll read it through relatively quickly, give you a few examples, and then as I talk about each of these systems, I'm going to be referring to this list as to, for this particular kind of system, what does that look like? So you always have a main page with core words. You have fringe words that are reachable somehow from the main page. How they're reachable, that can be very different in different core word systems. You've got grammar support, that how much you have varies, but most core word systems will let you have the future, the past, the present of verbs. They'll let you pluralize nouns. They'll let you take an adjective and get the comparative, the ER form, and the superlative, the EST form from them, so that you can start building higher level language skills. You should always have access to the alphabet and hopefully word prediction, because we always want to be looking at literacy for anyone who is non-speaking, because that's where they get free from us as the AAC system designers. Here's some what I would consider optional things. Some systems have different grid sizes and different vocabulary levels, some do not. Some systems have activity-specific pages so that you can make a page that's just about going to the store. Some systems, you just need to use the core words in every situation. Some systems have search or a word find capability. It's very useful because it's sometimes hard to find where we silly designers put the words. Okay, so example of a main page of core words, you saw that already. Example of Fringe, you saw that already. A few examples of grammar support that you'll see in more detail later. So this is Proloquo Go and how we do verb inflections. This is TouchTap with WordPower, and this is LAMP Words for Life. So it's slightly different, but all of the systems give you the access to basic grammar. Pre-programmed phrases, some systems have them, some systems don't. This is from the chat page in Proloquo Go, where we have some phrases. Sometimes, as with Fringe words, people say, oh no phrases at all. No nouns, no phrases, everything's core word. And you can say a lot of things with core word, but if you want to say, help, I'm having a seizure, you don't want to have to dig down to find seizure. So things that you say really frequently and that need to be quick and are urgent, those are things that you want to have pre-programmed phrases for, and you want to, they're highly individualized. What I want to say quickly is not what you want to say quickly. And then here's Proloquo Go's alphabet and word prediction. Okay, and then grid sizes and vocabulary levels, just a couple of examples. Proloquo Go with some grid sizes and some different grid sizes and vocabularies from WordPower. Activity-specific pages, these can really range. Here's Proloquo Go. We have some templates that you can use to create activity-specific pages, and we fill it in so that it looks as much like the home page as possible, so that we can really get people to realize that home page is useful, and you don't have to create activity pages for every single thing you do. This is a more noun-based activity page from WordPower. It's mostly words that you would use around a birthday party. And so that's designed more to get some words and then go back to the home page. So a little bit of a different philosophy of how to get people back to the home page. Search and word find, I'll be showing you this in action. It's a little easier to see in action. So how do you choose a core word system? There are a lot out there. I'm going to show you 4. And the most important thing, as I mentioned earlier, is what's most intuitive to you, the family, your son or daughter, and your team. Which one will they actually use? Will they model? Which is the easiest to get buy-in from the school, which is always a challenge. And then you also want to look at cost, support, and whether there's a community available of people that you can ask questions. And I'm not going to look at those last 3. I'm just going to concentrate on the vocabulary level kind of thing. Okay. These are the 4 systems I'm going to look at. Proloquo Go with the crescendo vocabulary. That's a vocabulary that comes for free with the app. WordPower. And LAMP Words for Life. They're from PRC. They were exhibiting here earlier. And Speak for Yourself, who are not exhibiting here, but there are several members of the Angelman community who use Speak for Yourself very successfully. And it's very different from Proloquo Go, and I wanted people to have a chance to see it in case it meets your needs. So I'm going to start with Proloquo Go, and as I noted from Erin's talk in the keynote, I thought I wasn't supposed to be telling people how to do specific things with Proloquo Go. So I'm probably going to add in a few things that she mentioned that I would talk about, because I hadn't planned on talking about it, but I don't want to make a liar of her. So this section in Proloquo Go will be a little bit longer than the ones that the other sections, but that doesn't mean those other apps don't have their own strong points. All right. One of the things I find useful when thinking about comparing different core word systems is what is the inspiration, what is the central guiding principle behind an AAC system? There's a lot of ways to arrange core words. For me as the designer, and also for Assistiveware when we were developing the system, it's to explore language. I'm an SLP by training. I very, very strongly believe that you don't drill and kill. you explore language, you play, you use language in real life, you allow the person who's learning language to explore the system, and that is how engagement, that is how learning happens. And so Proloquo Go is designed around this idea. And so there are a lot of things that we don't do that other systems do because we want you to have to explore and look around. That doesn't mean it's the right decision, but it's a lens through which to look at the system. Proloquo Go is only available on iOS systems, the iPad and the iPhone, and you buy it through the App Store. We have different grid sizes. We've got 3x3 all the way to 9x16. We have progressive language, which I'll show you later. It's a way to be able to start with a big, wow, and you can also hit things. It's a way to start with a big grid with lots of buttons, but make it simple at first and gradually add complexity. Navigation is a fairly traditional core word arrangement of, we've got words in folders by categories, like there's a food category, and inside that there's a subcategory of breakfast and so on. And it can go several levels deep. And that's one of the things that either you like or you don't like about this kind of app. And then, as I mentioned, we have the related core words on the Fringe pages so that you can make sentences without having to pop back up to the home page. We've got grammar, which I'll be showing you. We've got some pre-programmed page phrases, activity templates, and we have a typing view with word prediction. And then here is a link with some to our resources where we have videos, a manual, tutorials, things like that. And then what I tried to do for each of these apps is to identify a well-known member of the Angelman community whose son or daughter uses the app. And in this case, Erin Sheldon uses Proloquo Go. There are many others who do. She's the one I know best. Sarah Rivard as well. And Edito and Isabel use the app. So if you have questions and you want to ask someone else who's an Angelman family, how did this go? What the heck is this? Those are people that you can contact. And I'm going to switch to the app, which is in here, because I've been playing with these apps all day to try and figure out what to say. Yeah, I know. So the first thing I want to show you is grid size. What you see here is 7x11. It's my favorite grid size, but a mother doesn't like to, play favorites, but this is my favorite grid size because it's got a lot of nice language. It's got a ton of prepositions, which are really key in English, a lot of good verbs, but the buttons aren't insanely small. Proloquo Go, this is how you change the grid size. You go into options, which is the gears, and appearance, and default grid size. I can go from 3x3, which does really not give you a lot to talk about. I can go to more, and I have all of these Fringe folders, but you have to do a lot of navigating. Nice big buttons, but you have to do a lot of navigating. 3x5, and go back to the main home. And then we go all the way up to 9x16, which would meet almost anyone's definition for crazy small buttons. But there's a ton of language there, and there's a lot of things you can say without ever leaving that page. So I like 7x11 is that sweet spot in the middle, so we will sit there now. But one of the things that people often say when I show them this is, oh I can't find words on here, there's just too much, it's too much going on, and I know my son or daughter is not going to be able to handle all these buttons. What we tend to find is that usually it's the adults who are doing the modeling who have problems with having a lot of buttons. The person using the system is more than happy to explore and have a lot of language, but we're not going to get anywhere without modeling and without the person who's doing the modeling feeling comfortable. So we used to say start with a grid size with big buttons and then gradually move it up, but then the buttons move around. You can see the buttons are in a different position, and so the person using the system has to relearn the location. So instead we came up with progressive language. And this was in Proloquotigo 5, so if you're not seeing this, it's probably because you haven't updated your system. The updates are free, and if you need help, you can certainly contact us on how to do that. So I go to vocabulary, and I've updated, so I have progressive language. Go in here, I turn it on. And what you see is the green steps there. Those are different steps of language that I can choose from. So if I go to 1, these are actually the words that are visible on the 3x5 grid. So it's as if I decided 3x5 is the amount of language that this person can handle, but I know that physically he's going to be able to use this size of button eventually, so that I'm gonna keep the size there. So there are a lot of things I can say. I can say I want mom. And as you notice, when I go to the Fringe page, the same words are available in the same position, and the same words that were hidden on the home page are hidden on the second page. So, so you have that consistency. But there are things that I can't say, like I want it. It is not there. It's just not visible. So I can go look at the next step. It comes in. Few other things come in. Now I can start asking questions. And I can say that I like things as well as I want them. And so in this way, you can gradually increase the words that are exposed. If you are modeling, or if you just want to see, I wonder how my son or daughter is going to react to having all of the language available, you can use what we call explore mode. You go to the tools menu, or the tools pop-up. The button is the 4 squares in the lower left corner, and you press the I, and everything is showing on all of the pages. And then if you want to go back to the more limited setting, you just turn it off. So you don't have to go dig in the options and turn it on and off. You can also personalize by going into the home page or any of the templates for the Fringe page and either show or hide things that you think at a particular level you want to tweak them just a little bit. So that's progressive language, and so what we definitely encourage you to do is determine that smallest button size, and it's going to be smaller than you think at first, and use that to start with, and use progressive language to simplify. The next thing I wanted to talk about is navigation. So I'm going to just turn on Explore mode for now because I'm used to all these buttons. And as I said, you've got folders that are organized by categories. I'm going to go into food first because I don't know about you, that motivates me the most. And what you see here is the core words in the same place as they are on the home page. We have a little weird island with make, but it seems really important to me that food, you've got to have make there because you've got to tell mom, make a cookie. So this is the main page for food, and the intent is that on this page you would put those foods that are absolute drivers for the person, your favorite food. For me, this would probably be nothing but chocolate, and I wouldn't need anything else. But this is the folder of food that's closest to you that you can get to with one tap. So this is where you want to get the things, put the things that you really, really want a lot. And then if you go to More, you tap the More button. Now you're on, oh, sorry, I'm going to go back and tell you, this is the primary level of food. This is the first level. For most of the folders in Crescendo, we've got a primary level. That's the level where you want to have things that are, the things you want to have immediately available to you. The secondary level is for things that occasionally you might want to talk about. In this case, for food in secondary, I've put the folders for the particular times of day that you eat. And I'll go to breakfast. And here we've got that primary, secondary thing going on as well. These are the primary foods that I think someone's going to really want. But that was my guess as a middle-aged American speech pathologist. Here are some breakfast foods that I thought people might sometimes want to talk about biscuits, but probably not every day unless they're like in Texas. So I'm going to put it in secondary, but if you go to a restaurant and there are biscuits and you want to talk about them, you've got that word there. So how do I customize this for a particular person who's not me? Which is pretty much everybody. I tap the pencil button, and now I'm in edit mode. And you can see the buttons, those core word buttons are kind of dimmed with a little T on them. I can't change them because that's the template. That's how we do the magic of keeping things in the same location as they are on the home page. You can go in another way and edit the template if you want to, but we wanted to make it a little bit, so that you were being deliberate about it. And you see up on the top right corner, the 1 that's highlighted in white, and then there's a 2 and a little filing cabinet box on the other side. 1 is primary, that's where we are. Oops. 2 is secondary, should look familiar. If I go into storage, this is, here are a bunch of foods like Marmite and Cola Cacao. I have no idea what that is. But if I'm in a different culture or a different area of the world, these might be things that I really want to have in primary. So I can come in and select them, and I can move them to primary with the 1 with the arrow that's on that toolbar there. So now they're in primary. I can go to primary and I can say, no sausage or bacon for me. So I can move those to storage. I never even want to talk about them. I can go to secondary and I can say Cocoa Pebbles is my very favorite cereal, and so are Cheerios, and I'm going to move those to primary. So you can create your own buttons, and we have many, many symbols that you can use, or you can use your own photos, but this is a way that you don't have to create your own buttons if you don't want to. And the other thing that I really love about storage is that as a therapist, when I'm setting up a new person with a system, I have to get information from the family and the friends. Okay, what does he like to eat? Get a list. This way I can involve the person I'm customizing this for directly. I can say, okay, here's a whole bunch of stuff. Do you want any of these? Do you want me to move any of these so you can use them? And they can tell me. And I can say, oh, you really want fruit and you want it on primary? Okay, you got it. And they're more engaged, they have more of a sense of an ownership, they know more about what's on the system. So that's something that's unique to Proloquo Go, and oftentimes people aren't aware of it because storage is hidden by design. So I wanted to make sure to let you know about that. The next thing I want to show you is what we have done with verbs. And the Angelman community we owe a debt to the Angelman community. When I went to the camp in Toronto, and I talked to Sarah Rivard, we were looking at the older version of the vocabulary that we had, our original core word vocabulary. And what we had was, let me just quickly show you. You still have it, but it's in advanced. You go to actions if you want more verbs, and you're immediately confronted with these very abstract category folders. There's a ton of verbs in English. Verbs are so key to really expressing yourself. So rather than having a page that's all of the verbs and you're scrolling through and you have no idea where they are, I wanted to put them in subcategories, but really hard to categorize verbs. And so you would be confronted with this the minute you couldn't find a verb on the home page. So what we did was In intermediate core, which is the core level that we recommend as many people as possible use, because of this feature that Sarah inspired, what we've got is, in the verb folder, we've got the verbs that are very, very important, that are close to being core, but don't fit on the home page in this grid size. So we've moved them up so you can get them immediately, but we still have the categories over there on the right side. So if you still can't find, you've got 3 chances to find your verb. If home page, they're going to be the most frequent, most likely that's going to be okay. Then you go to the actions page, and maybe that covers the next 20%. If you still can't find it, you can delve into the folders, and at that point, it's probably going to be a verb that is very, very specific, and so it's a little bit easier to figure out what category it's in. We've done the same thing for describing words because they have a similar problem. There's tons of adjectives in English. And you really want to build a rich vocabulary of adjectives, but we don't want a list of all of the adjectives in the universe that you have to scroll through. Which brings me, I think, to my next point, which is search. This is the most requested feature in Proloquo Go, and finally in Proloquo Go 5, we have been able to add it. One of the reasons it's most requested is we have a very deep folder structure. We have a lot of words, and we've tried to categorize them intuitively, but people's minds work differently. So here's how you use search. You tap here, and you tap search. It's going to show my past searches, of which I have a few. And then I tap anywhere in this top window to get the keyboard back. And I'm going to look for cat, because I'm always looking for cats. And here you see, this is all the places where CAT appears in the vocabulary. If I tap this first cat, it's going to show me the path to cat. Cat is in multiple places because in our philosophy, we want people to explore. We don't necessarily know what is intuitive for everybody. And so if we couldn't decide on the one place to put things, we put it in both places. I am going to find it in animals. So I'm going to tap anywhere in this first row. It's going to walk me through. I can't tap anywhere but animals. I'm going to tap animals, and there's cat. What if I wanted a different cat? I'm going to go back to search and look for cat again. And you can see that some of these buttons are kind of dim. That means they're in storage. And we wanted to have people have a way to search storage and automatically move what they had searched for up into where the person who's using this system can see it. So I'll tap this one, and it's telling me that this particular cat is in storage for pets. So I will walk through and find it in pets. And it's very hard to see on the screen, but there's a little blue add button, a little blue cross over the kitten. So if I tap it, it's automatically moved that button from storage into here, into the primary, where the person can use it and see it. Because if they searched for it, they probably want it, and this saves them a step. So that is Proloquo Go's search. And next I want to tell you about our grammar features. In keeping with our inspiration of explore, we really wanted to make all of the forms of all of the words available to people who are not able to speak. Grammar is very difficult for non-speaking people to acquire because they don't have the chance, because it's not included in a lot of the AAC systems, and because they don't have a chance to play with it, to say things that are grammatically incorrect and have people say, oh, I would say it this way. That's one of the key ways that people learn language. So what we've done is we have a system where everything that has a colored in corner, if I press and hold it, I get a little pop-up, and it gives me the forms of that word. So this is a pronoun, it's I. So this is where I would find I, me, mine, my, and myself. So I'm going to choose I. I could also just quickly tap I and get I. I don't have to hold the button to get that main form. So I, Captain. And let's say I want to say I went. I tap and hold go, and I've got the simple past, went, the simple present, go, and the simple future, will go. I also have going in case I happen to want the present progressive. I tap not, and it's going to negate them, so I've got didn't go, don't go, and won't go. I can turn that off. I can also get more complex forms. If I want more present forms, I tap the present button here. And I have been going, am going, would be going, and would go. So I'm going to say am going. This is fairly abstract and complex. And so what we wanted to do was we really believe that people will learn these things by modeling. So if I tap this preview button, the face with the ear on the bottom, now instead of immediately going into the message window, it's reading aloud what I would get, and it's reading it in a different voice so that people who are listening to me know he's just trying to figure this out. So in the future, will be going. Okay, that's what I want. So I tap the green, and then I get will be going. So this is one of the areas of Proloquo Go that we get the most questions about the complexity of these pop-ups. We're looking at ways to have alternative pop-ups that may that have different approaches, but we also really believe that we want to make all of these forms available to everybody, and we do believe that modeling will be the tool where people can learn how to use these effectively. You can also inflect adjectives, so we've got good, better, best out of good, and well, the adverbial form. And you can inflect nouns, so if I go to places and I touch and hold, I get school, schools, schools possessive, and schools possessive plural. Why does anyone want schools possessive plural? Most people don't. So I can go into options and grammar. I can turn it off altogether, and then all those little corners go away. I can turn off just the verbs. I can go into advanced options and nouns, and I can turn off possessive plural. And now when I schools, that's just blank. There's nothing there. So you can fine-tune things to a certain extent. You can't edit these pop-ups, but you can turn things on and off. So that's our grammar support. I mentioned pre-programmed sentences. For Proloquo Go, we don't have a lot of those, but what we do have are in chat. So I can say,
I understand. How are you? What do you think?
so those may be some quick conversation ways to take your turn in a conversation. What you don't see there is a lot of really personal things like my favorite Beatle is Ringo, what's yours? I would have no way of knowing that's what someone wanted to say. So you need to go into these folders and add things like that. And last, I wanted to show the activity templates really quickly because I'm running out of time. If in intermediate, if you go to activities here and sample activities, you will see some samples we've made with the activity templates. When I make a new folder, the first thing it's going to ask me is what template I want to use. And the activity templates are all the way here on the end. And we have a whole video that will tell you how to use these. But I don't want to make a folder right now. I just want to show you one of the samples. I'm going to show you grocery shopping. So what we've done is We've got a healthy dose of core words. The core words are in the same place as they are on the home page. We have some words that are very particular to shopping, like carry, pick, forget, reach. So you can see I can't reach that. We've got some nouns that are particular to shopping. We've got some folders, food, cleaning things. We've got some adjectives like yucky and heavy that are particular to going out and looking for some food. We also have in the lower right corner the home pop-up. And what that does is it pops up all of the core words that are on the home page for this grid size. So you can quickly grab a word that you may remember is on the home page. And our goal with these activity templates is not for people to make a whole bunch of activities for everything you ever do, because yes, you can make them more quickly with these templates, but then how do people navigate to find what they want to say? If I went grocery shopping and I know I had an activity-specific page, and then I go to school next week, do I really want to go through all my activity folders and find that particular page? Or do I want to just go to my familiar home page and go to my food folder and use all of those core words? So we're trying to move people in that direction, but we know that a lot of people were making these very, very specific these activity-specific folders. We wanted to give people a way to do that, but still be able to move to core, because we really do feel that's more efficient. And we have a typing view with word prediction, which I showed you a picture of, and that's all I have time for Proloquo to go. David and I are here until tomorrow morning, so if you find us and see us and have Proloquo to go questions, we're very glad to answer them. And I always have my iPad with me. Unfortunately, the exhibit hall is closed, so you can't come to our booth, but if you see us in the restaurant or in the halls or whatever, I'm always glad to help out. And we also have a lot of resources on our website, which is here, and when you get the handouts, that will be a clickable link for you. So the next system I want to talk about, I have 15 minutes, so I need to do 5 minutes for each, so that's going to be fun, is WordPower. WordPower was developed by a speech pathologist named Nancy Inman. Her inspiration for WordPower was efficiency. She was working with an adult with cerebral palsy who was not a speller, but really needed an efficient way to talk. He wasn't interested in using MinSpeak, which was one of the only systems at the time where adults with CP were able to speak very efficiently if they were not able to spell. And so most of what you see in WordPower is really infused with this idea that you probably have a good solid language base, but you want to be efficient. It's available on a lot of different platforms. TouchTap on iOS is what I'll be showing you, but it's also available on dedicated devices from Tobii Dynavox, Saltillo, PRC, and Smartbox. You can also run it on Windows. There are several different grid sizes, 20 all the way to 108 buttons. And there are several different kind of language level configurations that vary widely depending on which platform you're using WordPower on. The navigation is very similar to Proloquo to Go. Folders that are arranged by a category and have subfolders. So you might go 3 to 5 levels deep. Probably not as deep a category as Proloquo to Go, though. So that's a plus or a minus, depending on how you feel about that. WordPower also gives you the ability to change the inflection of verbs and nouns and adjectives. The way that you do it varies by platform. I'll be showing you TouchTap. There are some sentence starters on some Fringe pages and on some kind of pseudo activity pages, but really mostly it's a very pure core word system. You have the words and you put them together yourself. There's also a typing view with word prediction And here are some resources. Saltillo has a really good page on TouchTap on their versions, and Smartbox has a good page on their versions, and the top one is Nancy Inman's website. So I'm going to switch to WordPower now. Oh, sure. Sure. Got it? Let me know when you're ready. Okay, cool. Sorry about that. Now I'm realizing I talk too much about Proloquo Go, which is always my problem. So let's see. Yeah, my friends are like, shut up. So this is the 42 configuration of Proloquo Go. I'm so sorry, of WordPower on TouchTap. And one of the interesting things about it is how it really tries to adapt to what you are putting into the system to make you efficient. So I've got a few sentences I'm going to type. I said I, so it says, well, you probably want a verb, so I'm going to give you a whole bunch of them. I want, okay, you chose your verb, so I'm going to go back to this more, to the main page. I want to, you probably want to say a verb, so I'll give you a bunch of verbs. Go to, okay, a bunch of verbs, but also places are up there next to questions, so I go to places, and I go to park. So I want to go to the park. I could have picked the earlier before I went to places, but I didn't. And so it's a little bit agrammatical. But you can see that if you already know language, if you already know the structure of a sentence, it's incredibly more efficient than Proloquo Go. However, if you don't already know that, and if the screen changing kind of throws you, then it may not be the system for you, or it may take some time to get used to it. Got another sentence. I want to say you came to my party, past tense. You, okay, probably want a verb. Where's come? You come, okay. Now it's giving me came on the main page. In case I want the past tense, you came to my, and I'm going to go into groups and party. And this is what I would kind of call a pseudo activity page. I tapped party, it didn't pop me back to the home page. I can stay here for a while and talk about party things if I want to, but I'm going to go back to the home page. So that is the 42 location. Here I can modify verbs and adjectives if I want to. After I've put the verb or the adjective in the message window, I can change the tense. I'm going to show you a couple more versions of WordPower really quickly. I'm going to show you 60, which has a nice number of buttons and doesn't do as much of this pre-navigating for you. So I'm going to say something like, what? And it knows the English question structure, so it's giving me the ability to say, what did you think of the, and it's thinking, you might want to say the best, only way, problem, one more. So it's giving you some breadcrumbs, but they better be the breadcrumbs you want, or it can be confusing. What do you think of the hot? What do you think of the hot? I hate it, but I'm glad to be here with you guys anyway. So that is the 80, and then the last one I want to show you is brand new. It's the 108 with keyboard. And if you've got someone who really doesn't like the screen changing that much and has some good fine motor and wants word prediction and the keyboard all on one page, this is a good choice for you. So it does do a little bit of that predicting for you. So if I say go, It puts in over, away, and back for me. If I say eat, it right away, I can tap on that same square and go to food. So there are some optimizations, but it's not as much everything's changing because there's more space. And so you don't have to change as much. So that is WordPower, and it is in, this is the TouchTap version. As I said, there are a number of different versions. I just wanted to really quickly say, I often hear people say, oh, we're using TouchTap. And the first question you should ask when someone is recommending TouchTap is, which page set are you talking about? Because WordPower is wonderful. Gateway, which is available in TouchTap, is wonderful. They're very, very good core word systems. But if I go here to choose vocabulary, there's a lot of stuff that I think 4 Basic turns you into, that's not a lot of language. So always be careful. TouchTap is a really good program, but you have to have the right page set. It's the same with Proloquo Go. You can use Proloquo Go and make some really funky things. We would encourage you to use Crescendo, which is that page set. So that is WordPower. I'm going to move on to something very different. It is LAMP Words for Life. And they were exhibiting in, they're from PRC. And actually, I should go to my slides. Okay, LAMP Words for Life from Pranky Romick. Their inspiration is motor planning. It's even in the name. LAMP is language acquisition through motor planning. LAMP is a slightly simplified version of MinSpeak, which is one of the very first AAC systems that was available, built around core words. It was designed originally for people with autism, but it can be used for any population. It's available on iPad and also on PRC dedicated devices. There's only one grid size, 7 by 12. There are 3 vocabulary levels, which I'll be showing you. There's also a feature called Vocabulary Builder, which I will not be showing you, where you can basically say, for this activity, I want to hide these buttons. So it's their way of simplifying the display. And the navigation, which I'll show you, is through what's called multiple meaning icons. You can do all of the grammatical things that you could do with WordPower. There's absolutely no activity-specific pages. There's only 3 pre-programmed sentences. You need to put together things with the words, although there's nothing stopping you from creating your own pre-programmed messages. There's a typing view. There's no word prediction in the iOS version, but there may be in the PRC dedicated device version. So I wouldn't take that as a knock on and they use the Pixon multi-meaning symbols, which I'll show you in a minute. And this is where you get more information about LAMP Words for Life. And as I said, this is in the slides. So I'm going to go to the app. And we are in, let me just double check, we are in the first level, which is 1 hit. That means that I can make sentences just from this page. I can't go anywhere else, and the words that will be said are the words that are on top of each of these icons. So I can tap the snail and say slow. I can tap the more with the music notes over it and say more. I can say more, my turn. There's a lot of things that I can say, but there's not a lot of nouns or fringe words that I can have access to. But I don't have to worry about any navigation. Now I'm going to go to the second vocabulary level, which is called transition. And in this level, you've got 2 different levels of words. So if I tap turn, I go to a different page and I can say turn. This may seem silly at first, but when you get to the final level, you'll see that it's just kind of a stepping stone, intermediate to I touch something and it's going to go to a different page. So we touch am, and I have a few things that are based on to be or are modifier words. Will, turn, will, where was come? My turn will come. And I've also got came, so I'm starting to get the I'm starting to get the past tense in there. The real power comes in when you go to full. Then you have 3 levels of things potentially. So let me go back to turn. And you'll see that I've got a lot of other verbs. I've got all of the tenses. I've got turns, turning, and turned, and to turn. I've got hot, hotter, and hottest. I've got all sorts of words that have to do with cooking. And how would I know to look there for things to do with cooking? Well, as you can see, well, you may not be able to see, but this is a pot. It's on the stove, and someone is stirring it with a thermometer for some reason, and there's an arrow that turns around. This is what's called a multi-meaning icon. You can also look at the help icon that's here. It's a guy in a bathtub with the medical symbol above him. So what would I expect to see there? I would expect to see self-care, cleaning, medical help, and indeed that's what I see. And for another, here off is a bunch of Mr. Potato Head body parts that are off. That's where I get off, but that's also where I get the body parts. So there are these connections that you need to learn, that you need to be triggered for in these multi-meaning icons, but you always have the same motor pattern to get the individual words. There's a search feature, which is lucky because sometimes it's hard to find. So I am going to look again for cat because that's what I do. And I can see that come, pet farm, cat. So come, because it's a dog, and pet farm, it's the category, and then there's my cat. It's very different from Proloquo Go and WordPower, but you have access usually to about the same vocabulary. Let's see, I'm going to tap preverb, and I'm going to show you there are some sentence starters, am I, are we, things like that. I want to show you also the pronoun I. There's a lot of sentence starters here, I know, I like, I must, so there's a little bit of efficiency built in. So that is LAMP Words for Life, and it has a typing view as well. If I tap spell, I get the typing view, but I don't have the word prediction on iOS. The last system I want to talk about, and I hope I don't skimp it, is a very interesting system called Speak for Yourself. It's from 2 speech pathologists, Heidi Lostraco and Renee Shevchenko. They live in New Jersey, close to the Pennsylvania border. And they developed this system out of a lot of frustration with the other systems they were seeing that didn't do what they felt was essential. So what is the inspiration for Speak for Yourself? It's motor planning. It's motor planning on steroids. The system only 2 taps to everything. You're not allowed to enter the same word in more than one place. They really believe in motor planning. It's available on iPad and iPhone. They have only one grid size, 8x5. They have one kind of vocabulary level. It's a beginner's template that I'll show you that hides a fair number of the buttons. And then there's the standard, which has everything showing. You can hide buttons individually and then reveal them as you want, or you can reveal them all at once temporarily by pressing the Babel button, and I'll show you that. And then the navigation is pretty unique. They have the same grammar, adjective, and noun inflections that you have in WordPower and in LAMP. There's absolutely no activity-specific pages, no pre-programmed sentences, although you can enter your own. There is typing. Typing view uses the standard iOS keyboard. So if your keyboard has word prediction, then you have word prediction, and it uses Smarty symbols. So, and then here's some information. Speakforyourself.org. You Don't Say AAC.com is a blog by a mom a young lady named Jess who uses Speak for Yourself, and she has Angelman syndrome, so I thought that would be of interest. Speak for Yourself has a very active Facebook community. And then in here, David Rosenblatt and Karen Horst, their son Nico uses Speak for Yourself, and I've seen him use it, and he's just total whiz with it. And they know some other families who have used it with success. So it is possible to use it with Angelman. Let me show you the app. Okay, let me get back to the home page. This is what the home page looks like. It has the same system that, a similar system as LAMP. If I tap look, then I'm going to see a bunch of things that have to do with look. I see travel, I see watched, appearing, observing, all sorts of things that are related to the looking sense. And one thing to notice, where look is, if I tap it and then tap in the same position, I get the word look. So that's an efficiency that's unique to Speak for Yourself. I'm going to show you that beginner's template. I thought I was. Oh, I have Babel on, there we go. Okay, so if you use the beginner's template, you get something that's very simple. I can go into open and close. Here are all the buttons are hidden, and let's say I just really think this person needs to be able to say some. I can turn that on, and done. And now there's a few things in some that I can use. Let's say I want to use some, but I don't think somehow, someday, or someplace are really, somewhat, are really necessary for this person. I can go in and close those, and that's how I would open and close things. You can also add buttons, but the system checks, and if the text you want the button to speak, if that word appears anywhere else in the system, it will say, you can't add it, let me show you where the button is. So it really enforces a lack of kind of spread of words everywhere. The buttons, as you can see, are very small. You can get key guards, but they would be very fine key guards. So this is really good for people with good fine motor, and it can be very tough to use if you don't have good fine motor. But fortunately, the kids in the Angelman community who are using it have really great fine motor, so that hasn't been an issue for them. Let's see, I showed you opening, I showed you Babel, I wanted to show you just a few words to show you the associations that you would need to learn to be able to use the system. So here's what you see under need. Under need, you see a lot of the personal care stuff, which is what you would expect. Under good, which is this dog, good dog, you see sports, which as a non-sport person I find confusing, but I can go with that. If you go to which is a witch's hat, then you get all sorts of things to do with holidays, because Halloween. If you go to time, you see time things, color, you see art things, and eat, you see food things, so that's pretty standard. In, where is in? I don't know where in is, so I'll show you the search feature. I tap the magnifying glass, I type in, I tap it, and it outlines in purple what I should tap. I tap that, and I tap in the same position on the secondary page, and I get in. So that's how I can search for things, because the associations are a little bit idiosyncratic, and it does take some learning. Once I have a word, like I'm going to put doorbell here, I could tap this S+ button, and I have all sorts of things that I can do. I can add a plus to make doorbells. I don't know why you would look in doorbells, but you can. I'm going to tap walk, and you can see that when I tap walk, I've got walk, walks, walking, and walked all here. But what if it's a word where I don't have, what if it's a verb that I don't have room to have 4 things for? So I'm going to pick walk, and then I'm going to go to the S plus, and I'm going to go to plus ED. Sometimes the pronunciation is a little hinky with the postfixes, but you can get a lot of different forms of words. They've got ness and shun and full and ly, so there's a lot of things, and they also have prefixes as well, un and re. So that is, the typing view. You just tap the QWERTY button and the standard iOS keyboard comes up. We do have people who use Keeble, which is our adaptive keyboard, a third-party keyboard, and they use it with Speak for Yourself. So, lightning tour of Speak for Yourself. I'm already, of course, over time, but I want to make sure I get to a couple other things, other systems. Gateway is available on Proloquo Go as an add-on and on TouchTap and on Tobii Dynavox. There is the website. It's pretty similar to WordPower. It does some of that pre-navigation for you, but it also has a lot of topic pages. So if you really feel like you need activity-specific pages and someone else has made them, then Gateway is a very good option for you. Dynavox just came out with Core First, and I played with it and considered talking about it, which, given how long I've gone, is probably good that I didn't. But what I found was I think there's a lot of bugs in their core word page. It does some conjugation stuff for you, which is, I don't think, ready for prime time, because I can't believe they intended what they did. So I would say it's interesting to look at, and there is a free version you can download and look at it, but I don't know that it's quite ready yet. And what about Pod? What we found in talking to Angelman folks is that as Erin said earlier today, about half of them who are using an AAC system are using Proloquo Go. A large part of the other half who are using the AAC system are using Pod. And my clinical feeling about this is that if you have significant physical issues, where you can only access 8 to 10 buttons on a page, or if you have significant vision impairment, or you have a really strong preference for low tech, you really want a book. Pod is designed for those kinds of folks, and it's really, really a great system. You get access to the same amount of language, but it's just organized really, really differently. And I wish the Pod session weren't in parallel to this session, because I really think people should look at both options and really, as with the core systems, find out what calls to them. And so that's all I had to say. And of course, I've run over. I'm certainly glad to take any questions, or you can grab me whenever you see me in the rest of the conference. Yes?
Can any of these systems have your own photos replace the icons?
Yeah, so the question is, can any of these systems use your own photos? Absolutely, all of them can. All of them can. And most of them, you can take the photo right inside the app. It's very, very easy. Yes?
It's so difficult to decide which way to go.
Yeah.
So once you pick a system and you decide that it's not working, I don't know how long that would take.
Yeah.
But how difficult is it for the child to change? Is it like, you've been learning French for 5 years, and now you're going to start learning German?
Yeah, it's, I have to say, that depends. The question was, if you're using a system and it's not working out and you have to switch, how long does it take the child to learn the new system? It depends. It depends on how resistant the person is to change. It depends on how well the original system was, the child thought, or the adult thought that the original system was working for them. They may disagree with you that they may be perfectly happy with the system. Then you're going to get a lot of resistance. You may get a lot of anxiety. Or the other end of the spectrum would be you may get, oh my God, of course I need all of these words, and they take to it like a duck to water. What I often recommend is I have no time period, I don't know how long it will take, but what I do want to recommend is that you have both systems available for a certain amount of time. With, say, Proloquo to Go, you can make an additional user with Crescendo and then just switch between the two. Pick, you know, this time of day I'm going to use this system, this time of day I'm going to use the other system. And really the only thing you can do is just feel it out, to see how it goes. Be cautious about the next bright, shiny thing, because sometimes people will use something for a few months and say, they're just not getting it. This is wrong. I need to switch to Proloquo to Go, Pod sucks, or vice versa. It's going to take a lot of time for learning. Typically developing kids hear words for a year before they ever say anything. A lot of that's motor development, but some of it is also just learning. So my shorter answer is, I don't know, but it's always a good thing to try new things, but make sure you have the old there available, because you don't want to take away someone's voice, and you want to make sure they've got something that works for them.
It seems like most of these, maybe I'm wrong, but most of these use the same core words. It's just how you interact with the system to develop that communication style, right? So the core words should be common. It's just how you use the system to navigate through those.
Yep, I agree. We're all working off the same research on core words. There's really only so many ways you can arrange those words. But given that core words are so abstract, a lot of people do use things like cues of position, because the picture of do, what the heck, how do you make a picture of do? So they may know that it's always on the top row and it's always kind of in this place. And so if you switch to a different system that has a whole different set of symbols, for instance, the fact that they know the word do, they still have some learning to do. It's in a different place, it's got a different symbol, how you get the tenses for that word are different. So there still is learning, but you're right. Once they know core words and once they know the power of those, then you're just taking those words and mapping them into a different way to say it. So it does take some of the edge off when you switch.
It's a pretty substantial investment.
Yep.
I guess that's my problem with having to try at the same time.
Yeah.
Trying to decide which one, and if it doesn't work, then you purchased it. That's
Yeah. Yeah. So she's saying it's a substantial investment. You try it, it doesn't work. You've sunk a fair amount of money into it. I agree. Some of these systems have a trial version that you can use. What you saw me using for TouchTap is a $10 version that has no voice, but gives me access to all of their vocabularies, so I can, as an SLP, at least play with it. But that would not work at all for someone you're trying to teach the system, because it's not talking. To me, that's a systemic issue. We should, in all of our countries, have loan banks where you can get an iPad and an array of apps and support and take this for 6 months and see what works for you. Unfortunately, we don't have that. Yes?
On February 2nd, Autism Awareness Day, and a lot of
That's right, yeah.
deals.
Yep. 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 February 2nd. So, yeah, so that's actually, yeah. Well, that's actually what I do. I've built my library that way because I don't have $1 million so to spend on apps. So there's actually February is it February? The whole April is yeah, it's April. Yeah, April is Autism Awareness Month or Autism Acceptance Month, and so oftentimes just be aware. Follow on Facebook Lauren Enders, Enders. She always has good lists of where the sales are, and she's on Facebook. And so April is a good time to look. October is AAC Awareness Month. And so it's less common, but a lot of companies do have sales during that period. And then there's just oddball sales, like Pictello was half off. I think it ends today, just because we're part of a European group of developers who put some stuff on half off. So one of the things that you can do is, if there's a system that you're interested in using, get in touch with the developer, get on their mailing list. They will always send a mailing out if they're having a sale. You may get some mails that you don't want, but most folks are not going to bombard you with a lot of stuff because they don't want you to, you know, unsubscribe. So that's, yeah, waiting for the sales. And for the iPads, those are also a substantial investment. Apple often sells refurbished iPads, and it's gone through their QA process, so you can be pretty sure that it's, you know, you can get Apple Care for it, and you know that it's going to work. Look for, right now, of the iPad models available, I would choose what they just call iPad. They don't like it's just iPad. And it is a really good price, and it is probably the iPad that Apple is going to be using to try and get education, to get schools to make big buys in iPads, which means that they will probably support it for longer than they might some of the other systems, because a lot of those contracts require, I'm going to buy a bunch of iPads, you better still support them for 4 or 5 years. So that's a consideration, because once Apple phases out support for iOS releases, the app developers have to make that hard decision too of whether they continue to support an old device. Yes.
So we use Compass.
Mm-hmm. Yes, Compass, yeah, Compass, if you get the subscription-based version of Compass, you can get WordPower. They don't have a version that you can buy outright that has WordPower. You can get a version of Gateway on Compass. It's a separate app that has Gateway built in, and that's really, really good, and I definitely recommend it. I just didn't have time to talk about everything, but Gateway is fabulous. And then Compass also has, they have some core word vocabularies that I mean, it's hard to, you know, I am a competitor, but I just don't really like what they've done. They have too much emphasis on pre-programmed quickfires and this and that and all this stuff, and oh, we have some core words too. That's just my opinion, but if you have Compass already, you can get that for free and look at it yourself and see and draw your own conclusions. Yes?
What is Crescendo?
Crescendo is the built-in vocabulary in Proloquo Go. So I'm going to switch to Proloquo Go, and I'm going to show you how to make a new user. So if I go to Options and User, I'm going to say Add a User. It's going to ask me some questions. We have videos on the website because it's probably tiny to see here, but I'm going to say, Cressy, the Crescendo girl. Cressy. Press Next. US is fine with me. Okay, I'm choose the voice. I'm going to choose Rosie. Hello, my name is Rosie. Then this page, this is where you get to make a choice. Choose a vocabulary. The first choice is going to be Crescendo. It's free, it's built in, it's checked by default. So if you just keep going next, 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 you'll be okay. Gateway to Language and Learning. We have a version of that, and it's an in-app purchase. It's what, 150 US dollars, and you have to, you get some information, you tap the little shopping cart. You can also make an empty vocabulary. That's going to have nothing in it, and you are going to have to design your own vocabulary. Having designed a vocabulary, it's hard. Don't do it. Even if you have a lot of changes that you want to make, I would start with Crescendo and then kind of figure out what parts of it you like if you really do want to make some changes. Or I can make a copy of another user that's there. So I keep Crescendo, I tap Next. Here you have 3 different vocabulary levels that are in Crescendo. The first is basic communication. We're always talking about whether we should just get rid of this because it really violates everything I've said today about core words. It's very, very basic. You can request, you can make very, very simple comments, but you ceiling out really quickly. It's not a core word vocabulary. We put it in because a lot of people get freaked out by core word vocabulary because it's a different concept to them. Intermediate, that's usually what we recommend that people use. The reason for that is that when I showed you earlier the verb page with all of those commonly used verbs on that level, on that first level that you see, and then you have the categories, Intermediate is designed that way for verbs, adjectives, food, people, a lot of the categories that have kind of natural subcategories. We really wanted to have a version where people don't have to dig into those subcategories right away. That's the only difference between intermediate, core, and advanced. With advanced, you go right to those subcategories. And if you are a super categorizer, it saves you a step, that's wonderful. Choose advanced. I would really like to change the name of this because people think, oh my God, my child's advanced, or I don't want to change again, I'll go to advanced. And then they go into the verb page and they go, no. You make your choice for the vocabulary level. We've chosen intermediate by default, and hopefully that's what you want. You decide whether your iPad is landscape or portrait, put it in that, and then you can choose your grid size. You can change the grid size anytime. So this is not your final decision, but you can tap these little buttons and get something else and kind of see what's going on, and then you tap next. You can add another language. It's bilingual Spanish and English or French and English. So you can add Spanish there. Here's Cressy. And then I have a new user. So if you're using Proloquo Go and what you've seen about Crescendo today looks unfamiliar to you, it's probably because maybe you've been using it for a while and you had something from before Crescendo came out, which was in version 4.0. So you can always make a new user, and as the gentleman was asking, how do you switch users? I would always make a Crescendo user and play with it myself, see if it makes sense to me, do a little customization, then show it to your son or daughter, but don't take away what they've got that's working, because that's just mean. Toggle back and forth and just see, I can go here to user, I can switch back to, I have no idea what I was using, Tessa, I guess, at any time, and give them that familiar environment that works for them. Yes?
How young of an age do you recommend introducing Proloquo Go?
We have had users as young as 2 that we know of. And if you think about typical language development, we talk to kids from the very first moment. So theoretically, when the child comes out, you could be using the system as a way of introducing them to their language. But realistically, with an infant, you've got so many other things going on that it's not a big deal. But I would say 2 or younger if you want to try, and just realize that you're giving input. I'll be talking this afternoon about modeling, and it can take 50 to 300 times exposure to a word before an AAC user will use it expressively. And if you heard Aaron talk earlier this morning, it really does seem to me, from what I hear and what I see from folks with Angelman, they are on the side of not being chatty Cathys with their AAC system. You give them a lot of input, and then when it's important to them, and when their neurology allows it, they will use it expressively, and they are listening and taking in things all the time, but it's not going to be, you know, someone who's carrying on long conversations with you. I could be wrong, and I'm sure there are people where with Angelman where that's the case, but it just seems to be a characteristic to me, very informally. Yeah, does that answer the question? Yes, anything else? Yes.
The different systems, are they, I mean, when you talk about iPhone, iPad, they're different sizes of iPad too, right? So my understanding is the apps all need to be formatted to these different sizes.
Yeah.
Support these different hardware.
Yep, so for the tape, if it's still running, I have no idea. Hi, if it is. The question is, apps need to be formatted for the different sizes of iPads and iPhones. That is true. Apple is relatively kind to developers in that they will do some automatic scaling for you. So, for instance, when the iPad Pro came out, Perl-Go ran on it just fine right away. It just, some of the proportions were a little off, but it ran just fine. And then we had to do some special stuff, special magic to make it look perfect. But that's one of the reasons that we really are an iOS company, because Apple does make it easier to support new screen sizes. For the iPhone, we have different UI for the iPhone than we do for the iPad, just because the iPhone, it's a different aspect ratio, you almost always are holding it in portrait, so we don't have as much room, so we do have, the UI is a little bit different for iPhone. But my understanding is that, like, Speak for Yourself runs on the iPhone, but they have the same UI. Yes?
Where I'm going with that is, last night we were talking about the potential of the discontinuation of iPad mini. About that.
Yeah, and I'm really bummed because it is absolutely such a perfect size for most kids. I don't know, I have no inside knowledge, but I have been suspecting it for a while because they're just not updating it. They're not updating the mini, so my guess would be they will. But you know, we could be wrong. I have no inside knowledge. But that means that everyone's going to have to move to a 9.7 eventually, meaning this size, 9.7 inch. Yeah, not the iPad Pro. That's okay. That's fun. Oh yeah, yeah. Yes. So the question is, could you still run Proloco? Yeah. A lot of that depends on how hard it is for us to keep supporting older operating systems. It really adds a lot to our testing matrix if we have to support a lot of different versions. And so we always play this, you know, okay, if we cut off this version, what devices do we use? We kept 9.0 for a long time because tons of people have iPad 2, but then we just couldn't anymore. So there will come a time when you won't be able to update Proloco to Go if they discontinue the mini. But you would still be able to run your old version, and you would still be able to download the, if you go onto the mini on the App Store, like right today, if you go on an iPad 2 to the App Store, Proloco Go 5, which is the current shipping version, doesn't run on the iPad 2. But if you've purchased Proloco Go, you can get Proloco Go 4.4.1, and it'll download just fine. The App Store has the smarts to know that you have to have the older version on that particular device. So you could run an older version, but you would miss out on any updates. Yes?
We had a little conversation.
Yeah, I remember.
Using the core words so that they don't change as they start to progress. That 7 by 11, the ideal, puts it in a pretty small space,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Somebody was speaking this morning about having, it's almost a cover of some sort that when they're touching, they're able to touch the icon.
Yeah.
Versus kind of the
Yeah.
little guy is not quite there yet.
Yeah, that's... That's called a key guard, and there, if you go to our website and search for key guard, we have a list of, and it's assistiveware.com. We have a list of vendors who make key guards. You also may be able to find someone in your community. Isabella, who was talking this morning, she found someone who could just make one for her, custom. And I believe Logan Tech and Lasered Picks are the two that I've heard of most frequently. They tend to be a little flimsy. They do tend to not take great rough handling, but they can help enormously. If all you need is just a little bit of separation between the buttons, they really can. And they're not, I mean, it's money. You have to, but they're not that expensive. Compared with how much they help. I love key guards, but we don't make anything physical, so we don't make a key guard. All we can do is recommend, and keep track of who makes key guards and let you know. So it's a good thing to try. Yeah. Anyone else? Well, thank you for staying till the bitter end. I am so sorry that I got started late and had too much to say, but thank you very much. And thanks.